Joe and Gus, thanks so much for taking the time. I'm surprised you're not in a pub. It's evening hours there in the UK, correct?
This is true. Well, we'll be, as soon as the interview's done, we'll be racing down to the nearest watering hole.
Do you two live close to each other?
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're about, how far are we, Gus?
Probably
miles?
about 2 miles. Yeah. But,
what part of the United Kingdom are you in right now?
We are in the lovely borough of Hackney in northeast London.
Well, wonderful. Thanks again for taking the time. The new album, The Dream, drops in February. Were the songs written pre-pandemic or during the lockdowns? How'd that work?
There's a bit of both, Mitch, I think. Yeah, I think we draw from many different time periods, and some songs are kind of sort of like sewn together from like periods in the early 10s, like 2013 through to 2020. And then we've probably kind of Frankensteined everything together over the course of the pandemic. So we've done a lot of assembling and a lot of writing at the same time.
Well, let's talk about the lead track from the album, You and Me. We love the song. Our listeners here at KINK love the song. And I did read that you did write that one during Soundchecks on your last tour. That seems unusual.
Yeah, we find Soundcheck to be quite a good time for us to work, really. I mean, a lot of bands you hear about working really hard on writing on the road, bringing studios on the tour bus and stuff. I mean, we're not one of those bands. We tend to see time not on stage as time to kind of relax or explore the city you're in or something like that. But Soundcheck, often we do find ourselves jamming, and often quite good ideas come about, such as You and Me. That was one that we didn't even remember actually coming up with, and it was only when we were back in London a couple of years later, listening back to the catalogue of Soundcheck jam recordings we had, that we came across it, and we were like, wow, I completely forgot about this one. This is great. So that was a very nice feeling, and that was the first track we sort of then recorded for the album. I think it just felt, due to the kind of spontaneity of how it came about, and it felt a bit like a sort of gift from above. So we thought we should start with it.
So how cool, you record all your sound checks?
Not quite. It's more the case of, I think if something is going well, and I think our crew have got quite a good ear for when we're sort of jamming and might want them to record something for us. So then our front of house guy usually just hits record on the desk, and then we have a kind of mix of what we've been doing. But I mean, most of the time in Soundcheck, or a lot of the time, we just kind of get on, do what's required, and get off again.
I love the music video for the song. A lot of skateboarding, and I've watched it a couple of times. Is that you guys skateboarding? I can't tell.
It might be. it might be. Yeah.
Well,
Guss had this idea where he came to us and he was like, imagine the band going to a skate park in the morning, and then by the evening they've become professional skaters. And so we took that idea and we had a few lessons, and we had the help of a lot of deep fakery and camera trickery.
Well, spoiler alert, Joe, I think you need a few more lessons.
Yeah, Joe's always up. If there's ever somebody in a video or generally who sort of has to kind of like really injure themselves, or I don't know, fake anything like that, fake blood or pulling horrible faces, Joe's always up for that kind of thing.
Well, it's a super cool video. Very well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, Joe, I read recently that you in particular, I don't know if you have the same fascination, Gus, with true crime podcasts, and there's one in particular you love called My Favorite Murder, and that may have inspired at least some of the vibe for the new album. Do I have that right?
Yeah, you do. My sister introduced me to this podcast, My Favorite Murder, back in like 2016. And I very quickly became an avid listener and sort of tuned in every week. And Georgia Hardstark and Karen Kilgariff, the two women that present the podcast, have almost become like furniture in my life. And I very much enjoy the podcast. And inevitably, if you listen to something so much, you will probably find that it affects your writing at some point. And so when it came to writing this album, thinking about subject material, I think I was leaning into the dark world of human behavior.
My partner is a big fan of true crime stories, particularly murder stories, and I have never understood the fascination. I find it depressing. But you said in an interview, Joe, that you see it differently. You find them empowering because it offers listeners or viewers ways to protect themselves. I never really thought of it like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people are never, most people aren't directly, they don't directly experience the kind of the grotesque side of the human condition. And though we kind of indirectly experience it, we walk past people that are capable or have been convicted of awful things. And, every time we go for a walk in the woods, you're in a radius where I'm sure there are bodies buried. So we kind of have this indirect connection with murder. And I have found that through listening to my favorite murder, there is a kind of you learn ways in which you can look out for unusual behavior, and you can learn to say no and not be polite. And I'll get in your car because you don't know where you are in the city, you need directions, you're asking me to get into the car, sure, I'll get into the car with you. It's like, no, you don't get into the car, be rude. And you may have avoided an encounter with someone who had some really sinister intentions.
Yeah, good advice. I have a show recommendation, unless you've already seen it. Are you watching Only Murders in the Building, the streaming show? Steve Martin, Martin Short, Sting is even in a couple episodes, but it's about exactly this. It's about fans of a true crime podcast, and then a murder happens in their building in New York City, and I'll let you discover the rest. It's either on Hulu or Netflix. It's on one of the streaming services. I think you would love it.
Oh,
great.
Right up my street. Yeah.
So Alt J heading out on a big North American tour next year. It starts in Pittsburgh on February 25th. Now, it's been a couple of years since your last tour, and I know touring is grueling. So is it something you're excited about, or do you have butterflies? Do you kind of dread it? What's your mindset?
We're really excited. I mean, I think particularly given what we've all been going through over the last couple of years, just the thought of traveling alone, let alone getting to play live to our fans, is really, really exciting. It's just going to be great to be back on tour, back on the bus, seeing places we've not seen for a long time, seeing our fans and things like that. I mean, obviously, it's going to be a bit different, maybe. Who knows? Touring in the time of COVID, I suppose, might have some difficulties and some differences, but we're going to make the best of it and try and have as good a time as we can.
Well, in my experience, just over this past summer, we've had so many shows come to Portland, and people are super receptive. I mean, the audiences are more into it than I've ever seen in my life, just because we're so starved for entertainment. So I think it's going to be super exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Absolutely.
Yeah.
How much input does an artist have concerning tour dates and location? Because as of right now, unless I'm looking at something incorrectly, I don't see a Portland, Oregon date for Alt J, and we got to fix that.
We have got to fix that, absolutely. The answer, sadly, is we have zero input as
That's
artists.
what I assumed.
Yeah. Who knows what on earth went on there? It's mad, particularly given that Portugal the Man are from Portland.
Exactly.
And that we have an amazing following in Portland. So I'm going to call out and shame our booking agent right now and say, sort it.
Write a very strong letter, Guss.
Yeah, I will.
Now, Joe, you and Guss have both become new dads this year, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
So how will you balance family life on tour? Will you pop back to the UK every chance you get, or will the family come with you?
Yeah, we're gonna sort of do a trial run and see what it looks like when we have our family on tour with us. We've got some friends, Group Love, that do that, and it works for them, and we kind of sort of liaise with them and sort of like any tips or kind of helpful advice. And I think that's where we're going to start. We're gonna try touring with the babies and the mums. It's going to be fun.
Do you have little boys, little girls, one of each?
One of
Boy,
each.
girl.
Daughter, yeah.
Yeah.
So how is first-time fatherhood? Is it more than you had imagined? Is it just what you imagined? Is it super challenging?
I think there are moments that are much more challenging than I could have imagined, and there are also moments where it's like super, super easy. It's a strange thing, but I think having grown up till I was in my early 30s, just pretty much being responsible just for myself. It is a big change to suddenly realize that you're kind of responsible for this human being 24 hours a day that really is helpless and needs you constantly. But it's lovely, and yeah, I'm very excited to bring my son out to America and you know, he's going to be more well-traveled than most people ever are in their lives by the time he's 6 months old. So that's an exciting prospect.
It's funny because like just earlier, my partner relieved me of my duty looking after our daughter. And I've never, the baby was taken from me, and I've never just been so more content than just lying horizontal and just looking up at the ceiling.
Oh,
I think that's kind of like, it's just so nice just to zone out and like,
yeah.
I think that it's so relentless, but it's so magical. But those kind of sort of really mundane moments are to savor.
Yeah, I love it. Gentlemen, before I let you go, I got to mention this, Joe. I recently heard about what you are preparing for your holiday feast. Can we talk about that? It's a 3-bird situation, right?
Oh, now
that was me. That was me.
Oh, that's you, Guss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it?
So it's a 3-bird roast. So it's so essentially you get 3 different kinds of birds. You take all the bones out and you sort of stuff one inside the other. So I think it's a pheasant inside a capon inside a goose that we're doing.
Does it have a name?
I think some people call it a 3-bird roast, or some people call it a Russian doll roast, if you will.
Oh, that makes sense.
And
we
so
have
the
something like
idea
that in the States called a turducken.
Right,
a chicken inside a duck inside a turkey. I've had it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. It's not worth it.
Well, I'm paying a butcher to do it for me.
Aha.
But I will be cooking it and carving it myself and eating it, of course.
Well, I hope it turns out wonderful for you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, me too.
Gentlemen, I hope we can see you next summer. At least you're coming close. You'll be in Seattle next year. So that is good. Congratulations on the new album. Again, it drops in February. It's called The Dream. Joe and Guss from Alt J, it's been a real pleasure. Happy holidays to you both. Stay safe.
Thank you very much, Mitch. Thanks for having us, and thanks for all the support.
Yes,
Cheers.
thanks.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Bye.